All right, let's bring in two NewsNation political contributors and Democratic strategist Chris Hahn, Princeton University Wright joining us as well. And I don't know, we played a clip again of it, but it was a conversation we had last hour with Geraldo, whose basic point, although quite sympathetic to the victims, Lauren, was that this story is getting, he thinks, maybe too much attention, right? And I get that, and distracting us or taking us away from other things we should be talking more about. What's your perspective today as Connell and Massey push this into the news?
Well, I'm also very sympathetic to Trump supporters and people who detract from him and can't stand him, who are angry about information seemingly being withheld. But at the same time, I understand why the president's saying, I really think no matter what I released, they would think there is something else being hidden. And that's probably true. It's also true that this is absolutely not a Democratic hoax. And these are real people. And they do deserve for their stories to be heard. But I'm curious what Chris thinks, because I don't know if there is a way to take away from this story. It's just one of those things Americans are very interested in, and they'll continue to be.
Yeah, no, I think your point about it's obviously not a Democratic hoax is a good one, because it came mostly from the MAGA folks to begin with. They're the ones that really pushed it. You're right. But what about that other point, Chris, as well, that the president is making today? What do you make of all this?
I mean, Lauren's right. I mean, this is something that MAGA kept going for the last couple of years, and the president, and J.D. Vance, and Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi all fed into. So, I mean, they've got nobody to blame for this but themselves. And here's what I took away from the press conference today. The victims said they're going to start releasing the names on their own. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it's a bad thing for the president and people around him. I don't think the president's named in this. I think it's he's far too big of a name for us not to have known about it in any way that is any way untoward towards minors. But there's probably a lot of people in his circle that are. And there's going to be a drip, 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 drip of information. And we all know that in communications, if it all comes out at once, you could survive it. It's the drip that kills you.
Yeah. Now, the other issue I wanted to talk to you guys about today is RFK Jr. We haven't talked about this much on the show today, but I mentioned it in the tease earlier that there was this letter put out with all that's been going on, Lauren, at the CDC, that HHS, the department that he runs, there's like 1,000 employees who are calling for RFK Jr. to resign. More than 1,000 current and former employees of the Department of Health and Human Services demanding he resign following the ouster of the CDC director. It certainly seems, the CDC thing definitely seems chaotic, but where do you think all this is going?
Yeah. Well, look, this is a huge agency with about 80,000 people that work there. It's going to be cut down to about 60,000, but 1,000 people, that's still an awful lot. That's a big headache for RFK and for the people that work for him. But it's also one of these agencies that's very politically coded, that has a lack of trust in it because of the lies that were told during COVID and because of some of the the policies at the time that have become very unpopular, like some of the masking and some of the lockdowns and keeping schools closed for so long. All of those things were real, and they have completely depleted trust in both the CDC and HHS. And so RFK comes in, a lot of these people disagree with him. I mean, reshaping this to his agenda is going to be impossible, but I also don't think those 1,000 employees are going to get what they want.
Yeah, I think Lauren's right, Chris, a lot there, that two things can be true at least at once. Because, for example, I had a Democratic Congressman, Ami Bera from California, on last hour, who's a doctor, probably know, but he basically admitted as much what you said. For example, the schools closing. Just the arrogance over that at the time from many Democratic leaders especially, he thought was a mistake, and in retrospect should be admitted as such. It doesn't necessarily excuse, in his view, ousting the CDC director, for example. So there's a lot going on. What's your view, Chris?
Well, yeah, there were a lot of mistakes made during COVID. It was a brand new, out-of-the-blue virus. I should remind our viewers that Donald Trump was president and ordered those mistakes. So let's keep that in mind. But to call them lies, I think that's a stretch. I think that there were some bad decisions made, but I wouldn't call them outright lies. But I will say this. If RFK Jr. wasn't the quack that he is, the anti-vaxxer, I think he'd have a lot more success bringing the agency around. Instead, what he's doing is he's firing top scientists, and he's got everybody in the medical community, not just people who work at HHS, concerned about what he is doing because they don't trust him particularly. So, Health and Human Services, did they have some reputational problems coming out of COVID? Of course they did. But I think Americans need to grow up and understand that when something is brand new, you're not going to know how to solve it immediately, especially something as complex as this virus was.
Yeah. You want to say something real quick, Laura? We got to go.
I was just going to say, I disagree with Chris on this. We could talk about it for an entire show, but they were not following Obama's very well put together playbook on infectious disease. If they did follow that, there would have been better policy.
Well, Trump was president. That's why they weren't following the Obama playbook, just for the record.
I agree with you. Yeah.
As much as I would like to relitigate COVID for an entire show, I don't know.
Right.
We're right. I know. I agree with you, too. I'm sorry.
Leave the producing to us, Lauren. We'll decide about the rundowns. That might be a rough show to do at a time. Maybe a segment, you know what I mean? All right, thank you both.
I mean, it would put a lot of people to sleep, to be honest with you, and we don't want that.
You said
we're not late at night.
I got to update something serious here. Thank you both, guys. We talk about UMass